There's familiar faces in the NFL playoffs. I'll be catching up with a new face in St. John. And there's a fresh face in charge of the Montreal Canadiens. All that and more. It's Sports QuaranTV. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV. Chris, Dobson, Gerry Green, bringing you all your sports news. Jerry, we've got a great show lined up tonight. We're going to do things a little different tonight. We're going to start things off with one of the hottest things going on right now. It is week 2 of the NFL playoffs. We had some not so exciting games last week, but we also had a bit of controversy as well. But as we spoke about in the headline, there's a lot of familiar faces here come week 2 of the NFL playoffs.
Well, there certainly is, Chris, and there was some really good games, and there was some, well, not predictable, but certainly games that really got out of hand in a hurry, and specifically that Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots. Chris, Buffalo scored on 7 straight possessions against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, and looked like men playing boys. It wasn't even close from the get-go, which was really shocking to me to see Buffalo manhandle a New England team that usually is very prepared. And so I was quite shocked, but maybe this is, the year of Josh Allen. Who knows? But he's got tough competition coming up next week because Kansas City's sitting there and coming off and I don't want to get too much ahead of you on, I know you want to talk about the Buffalo, about Kansas City playing Pittsburgh, and it looked like another lopsided game, which it ended up to be a 42-21 victory. But Pittsburgh had to wake Kansas City up. Kansas City was daydreaming through the first quarter, a little bit into the second before they wake up. And that's a concern for me. But Buffalo and Kansas City are scheduled for week 2 of the playoffs.
I'm super fired up for that game. You talk about that Buffalo game, and I think, from an offensive possession, I mean, it's NFL history. I don't think in the postseason offensively. Now, again, other than the kneels at the end, there was no punts. There was no, it was just a perfect game from the Buffalo Bills. Odd to see Bill Belichick, first of all, wearing sleeves, regardless of how cold it was, but good for him. But ultimately, these are the types of things you look at. And, not that I'm saying you're looking at Mac Jones right now and everything that the New England Patriots have accomplished. I mean, this was a tough football game for them going into Buffalo. The weather was really cold. We talked about that last week. But overall, this could be Josh Allen's time. I mean, there is a lot of great QBs still left in the St. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen will mash up. Don't forget you got Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers still on the other side as well. I mean, there's a lot of good football left. There's a lot of good football teams left, but nothing overly shocked me. Like these matchups coming in, nothing surprised me other than the fact that until Kansas City started to make that route to Pittsburgh toward the end, you're right. I was a little nervous for Pittsburgh at first. I saw Big Ben come on in, do his thing, but it was the defense who got everything rolling when they scored that 6 points to get Kansas City fired up. And I think at that point, Patrick Mahomes said, that's enough of this. I've had enough. Let's get it going.
Yeah, statistically, there was some really oddities during this week of the playoffs in regards to Josh Allen threw just 4 incompletions and threw 5 touchdowns. That's very odd. He was 22 for 26 and just, surgical up and down the field and scoring all 7 possessions. One of the oddities I found was, of course, the Bengals, who were home for the first time in a long time in the playoffs for a good opportunity. They were favorites against the Las Vegas Raiders, who then had to play Sunday night and then go and play a Saturday afternoon. Didn't think that was quite fair from a schedule perspective, but it's all about TV ratings and which games they want to have at which time slots. But here it is, 30 years, 1990 was the last time the Cincinnati Bengals had won a playoff game, so they get that monkey off their back. And it was the Raiders going in that had been 19 years without a playoff win. So I was glad to see Joe Burrow and in Cincinnati get a victory on home ice and get that monkey off the back, get his first victory as a quarterback of a team. But they have a tough task ahead of them, a Tennessee Titans team that's been sitting there waiting. That'll be an interesting encounter too.
Talking about, the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrows and what he's done. What I love so far too is, I kind of sent a message out today, and that was the Bo Jackson curse, if you would, if you do know it or you don't know it. The last time the Bengals, they've been cursed ever since they injured Bo Jackson in that last postseason game, and they've never made it to the second round since. This is their first playoff win. So, I'm excited. I actually like the Bengals. They're fun to watch. They've got a bit of a tough matchup ahead of them, though. I'll be curious to see how it plays out because there's still a lot of reports on whether or not Derrick Henry is going to return for this football game. He's eligible to return. Tennessee's being very quiet about whether or not he will return.
Yeah, and a lot of these, it's a type of season where anything can happen on every given Saturday or Sunday, as the saying goes. Tennessee has a really nondescript quarterback in Tannehill. That's my perspective, anyways. And Derrick Henry is a big part of the offense, but they have survived without him for a while. But then they had stinkers against Houston. They had stinkers against the New York Jets, but other teams did too. But it's so unpredictable, and I really don't like sitting and waiting. But in football, it can be different because you get a chance to rest those bumps and bruises, because it is a violent game. My goodness, I would like to have 2 weeks off after playing one of those games, because it takes a little bit of recovery. So that's an intriguing game for me, Chris. That's a toss-up for me. Cincinnati, who's feeling good about themselves, going into Tennessee to take on the Titans, who've been sitting and waiting. So did you get a chance to see the Rams and the Cardinals play, and what was your perspective on the outcome of that? Is that what you thought was going to happen?
No, if I could be honest, I didn't. I thought I'd expected a lot more from Kyler Murray. I've been a big Kyler Murray supporter all season long. I like him. I like what he brings to it. I like that team. I like that Arizona team. To answer your question, long story short, no, I was a little surprised.
Absolutely. And here's a strange statistic. And Matt Stafford gets his first victory as a quarterback behind the Rams. Still it's not clear whether or not he's the one to lead them to the promised land. But he had 6 carries for 22 yards. Kyler Murray, who known for making defenses scratch their head and have their head spin around with the moves that he can make and the way he can throw the ball. Chris, he had 6 yards rushing and 2 interceptions. And of course, the one we've seen the most of him trying to avoid a safety and threw an interception. That was really a key point in the game, but it really a controlled Rams defense that held the Cardinals to 34-11 victory. And so now they're going to take on Tampa Bay, and it looked like same old Tom Brady. It looks like they handled Philadelphia very easily.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's I guess I just don't know at this point, because now you got your tough matchups coming up too. So if you look past that, I mean, one of the matchups I've been extremely excited to watch, and what I'm fired up for, is that San Francisco Green Bay game. Like that's to me right now, my passion's in that game. San Fran's a hot team right now. Jimmy Garoppolo's doing his thing. Deebo Samuel, it's a question mark, but you're walking into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, who, MVP. And don't forget, these two teams met in week 3, and Green Bay came away with a 51-yard walk-off 30-28 win off the foot of Mason Crosby toward the end of it. I still think I think when Green Bay comes away with this win, I think it's going to be tough. I think Green Bay has a very good shot of winning the entire thing this year.
San Francisco did their best, and Garoppolo too, did their best to give that game back to Dallas at 23-17 victor. Garoppolo starts it with a very careless pass that goes for an interception that gives Dallas some momentum. But Dallas couldn't get out of their own way, Chris. 14 penalties, and a lot of them from false starts and things that, you're setting up for a 3rd and 1 false start. It's now 3rd and 6. They shot themselves in the foot the whole time. And of course, the infamous play at the end where they try to run before the clock runs out and then reset the ball. My goodness, don't even get me started on the refereeing, Chris. Not that it was the referee's fault, but even to make that call that you're going to run the ball with 14 seconds left just seemed mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, I agree. It seemed a little bizarre all around. But hey, like I said, for us to sit here and make that, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things that kind of happened this weekend that I'm not quite understanding. I'm glad I'm not a coach in the NFL. So there's a reason maybe a lot of these coaches aren't employed anymore too. There's a lot way it's such a big turnover. But yeah, no, I agree.
I agree with you on Green Bay. I think Tennessee does hold fort on home field. I do think the Rams can beat Tampa Bay, and I think Buffalo can beat Kansas City. That's going to be the highlight game of the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you full tilt. That's where I'm going as well. Although I have a hard time betting against Tom Brady, so I'm going to say that the Bucs they can beat them, but I'm going to take the Bucs. I mean, it's tough not to. But yeah, man, so let's just quickly review these picks, these predictions. I want your thoughts and processes real quick. Cincy, Tennessee, who you got?
Well, I'm going to take Tennessee just because I think they're on home field, and I think Derrick Henry is going to be back, and he'll be a big part of that. And so it leaves Cincinnati with difficulty trying to game plan if they don't know if he's going to be back or not.
I know you quickly talked about San Fran, Green Bay. Pick, where you going?
Well, I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to have that turtleneck on. He's going to be prepared for the cold weather. San Francisco comes in there, and the frozen tundra, as they call it. I don't know how cold it's going to be, but it's a different atmosphere than they were used to playing against, or at home rather, or playing in Dallas rather, in that controlled environment. So I'm going to take Green Bay for sure.
And you're taking the Rams and you're taking the Bills. I'm going to go this route here. I'm also going to take the Bills. I'm taking the Bucks. I'm taking the Packers, and I'm taking the Bengals. Those are my picks. We'll see who's sitting here out on top. All right, Jerry, That's enough of the NFL. Let's go to the QMJHL, where we don't have a whole lot to talk about, but there's a bit of an update here. I mean, we're looking at it, last we heard, the teams in New Brunswick were looking for a place to practice. It looks like these three teams are picking a spot in a community in Quebec. Rivière-Loup being thrown around, those types of names. But either way, these teams are looking to get on the ice. They're looking to practice as a team since post-trade period. I'll be curious to see what happens. Maybe we'll have more next week.
Yeah, because the players are back. And they're just sitting. They got one practice in supposedly before the shutdown last Friday. And so they want to get on the ice. They want to get prepared for possibly the second half. As the league still continues to say, they want to get 68 games in, Chris. And the next date that we're expected to see them on the ice is February 1st.
Well, while Jerry steps away, very pleased to be joined now by one of the new faces in St. John, Philip Daou, coming over after the release from Belleville and the big trade with Moncton. We're going to start right off the hop, and that is before you were a member of the St. John Sea Dogs, before you were a member of the Belleville Senators. You left kind of not going out of like Moncton Wildcat camp coming into this year, head on into Ottawa Senators camp. Obviously, congratulations, you got drafted again by the Sens. Did you think, and how big of a shocker was it that you found out, hey, junior hockey at this point was not an option? You were going to be sticking within the AHL. Was it a shock for you? Were you surprised? I mean, I want to go through all your emotions on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a little bit of a shock at camp finding out that, Ottawa wanted me to go to Belleville camp after the development and rookie camp. Going into this year after the offseason, obviously my goal was to play in the American League. I think every player wants to make that next jump to the next level as fast as possible. Even though, I really wanted to play that my 20-year in Moncton the first half. But, it was a lot of good things at camp to find out, that I was going to be going to Belleville and have a better chance at making the team. So it was honestly just a lot of shock for me and my family. Most of my family, they were shocked, they're excited that there was a chance I'd be playing closer to home. But I think in general it was a really cool experience, and I take so much from the camps.
So if you look at the overall, speed of the game, the aspect of the game, I mean, what's the biggest thing that you would say is different between the American Hockey League and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League?
I think really it's the strength of the players. You're not playing against anymore 17, 18, 19-year-olds. You're playing against men. You're playing against some guys who are 28 to 30, 32 years old. They've been playing for a long time. They have that man strength. So I think the strength is a big difference. Also the speed. Everyone's playing at a higher pace. Players are coming at you faster. So it took me a little bit to get used to. But after a few games and a few practices, I started getting used to it more and more. And it's honestly really cool to see such high end talent there, and play with such with pro athletes and older guys who have been playing pro hockey for so long. I learned so much from them, and in general, it was really cool.
Well, being part, of the Belleville Senators and the Ottawa Senators, as far as an organization goes too, is such a wild ride right now, because if you look at their roster and how they're, the buzz about Ottawa right now and everything that's taking place, I mean, they're a young team, but they're up and coming. And you look at, maybe it's last year, the roster, but everyone kept saying the same thing. And that is never take them for granted. And you look at the system and what they've developed, especially in Belleville, there's some former QMJHL players there as well. And I mean, you look at the talent and the roster that they're putting together, it's exciting, I suppose, just in general, to be a part of a Senators organization.
Oh yeah. I mean, just going at rookie camp and development camp, you just see how many prospects and how deep Ottawa is. They've drafted so well the last few years, and we're a really talented group, especially in Belleville. A lot of the prospects are there, and I can just see such a good future for them. And I hope to be part of that future, obviously. And just got to keep working every day and build every day. So.
Okay, so let's go through the last week. I mean, this is where things start to get real interesting from our point of view. And I mean, word on the street is, St. John, obviously everybody knows they're in the mix. They're hosting the Memorial Cup this year. This is a great opportunity. I know, we've had a great chance. I've chatted to Richie Tebow quite a bit, and, Richie was able to pull the strings and make it all work to give you a shot at pulling in junior hockey's ultimate prize. Was Richie in touch with you throughout the process? I mean, it was a pretty chaotic 24 hours from what I heard. This whole thing all started that Richie got wind 24 hours before the trade period ended. So he was able to work out a deal with Trevor and St. John, which is first and foremost, as you know, playing in Moncton is unorthodox as it gets because Moncton and St. John don't typically make trades. So then you got Richie making that deal. It all comes together. Next thing you know, you're a member of the St. John Sea Dogs, and now you're talking to Trevor Georgie and you're about to make a run at a Memorial Cup. I mean, what was that like for you?
I mean, honestly, when I found out from my agent letting me know that Ottawa was maybe thinking of sending me back to junior for the second half of the year, obviously, at first I wanted to play for Moncton. I wanted to go back home, obviously, and be back with the boys and with my billets. But at the same time, I wanted to have that chance at winning a President's Cup and a Memorial Cup, and obviously St. John was high on my list. Knowing that they were hosting. So yeah, within 24 hours, I think around 6:00 the day before the trade deadline, that my agent called Richie, letting him know that I was going to be coming back to juniors, and I think Richie just made it work. Richie's first question to me was, was I willing to play in Moncton if nothing ended up working out? And my first answer was yes, obviously. But at the same time, we told Richie that I wanted to win a Memorial Cup, and Richie made it work, and I couldn't be happier to be in St. John. To guarantee go to a Memorial Cup, not a lot of kids get to live that experience, and I couldn't be more excited for that. And I'm just really happy for my time in Moncton, and now I'm glad I'm in St. John.
So then you get to St. John, then of course the COVID measures change for the 150th time in 2.5 years. So now you're in St. John. You got a chance because St. John made a plethora of moves. So it's a lot of new guys coming in. Now, the good news is you guys were able to get on the ice. You were able to meet some of the new guys coming on in. What's the overall attitude, right? Like right now in St. John on the quick basis, once you finally get to meet the guys and get a chance to have a skate with them?
I think just you can feel that buzz in the room. Everyone's really excited. We have a really good team, a really strong team. And, obviously the atmosphere in the dressing room is a little bit different. So many new guys. I think we got 8 or 9 new guys. So it's going to take a little bit to get used to each other and make those good plays on the ice. But, just having that one practice before the lockdown, it was a really good thing. Like everyone was excited. Could tell everyone was excited for the rest of the year. So in general, I think, all the new guys are excited. We're all trying to get used to each other. And as time goes on, we're just going to get better and better.
So the last thing I'll ask you before I let you go, and that is obviously for the fans here in Moncton who've had a chance to see you for a long time. Now you've got the fans in St. John excited to have you too. I mean, what are you bringing to the Sea Dogs lineup? I mean, what's the overall goal for you outside of win a Memorial Cup? What are you trying to bring to this lineup?
I'm trying to bring that leadership. I got to be around a lot of pro players. Got to learn a lot in a pro atmosphere for 3 to 4 months. I want to bring that to St. John, and I want to, kind of lead the way for them. I also want to be a big guy who plays a lot of minutes and leads the way point production, obviously. But I think I just want to lead the team in the right direction. I want everybody to play hard every game, not just once in a while. So I think I can help the boys a lot in terms of, on ice and off ice leadership. And I think that's the way I'm coming in.
Phil, I want to thank you, my friend. I mean, I know that as soon as I got wind you were coming back, the first call I made was to Trevor, and I was like, yeah, no, I got to talk to him. I hadn't seen you in a couple of years, obviously trying to get to have a chat with you. You've always made time for us here on Rogers. So I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for this. Best of luck. Hope you're on the ice soon enough, my friend. And I can't wait to see you at TD Station and see if you can't lift that cup.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, Phil's gone. We can welcome back Gerry. Gerry, let's go right into the NHL. Big news coming out of Boston, of course. Great to see Willie O'Ree's number retired.
Yeah, Chris, we take him for granted so much because he lives here in New Brunswick. He's from New Brunswick, and how much we know about him. And it's not all of a sudden, but it's nice to know now the rest of the world is starting to know more about Willie O'Ree. There's been more things written and publicized and covered about Willie here, I would say in the last year or so, Chris. I don't know why it seems to me like it's been the last year that he's seen his prominence in what he did and what he accomplished. And if you remember back in the original six, how tough it was for any hockey player to make any of those teams, because there was only 120 hockey players, or 6 teams and 20 guys on each team. For a man of color to be able to play in the NHL is finally being recognized for what it was.
It's incredible. If you think in what you just said is exactly, where my head goes when you think of the original six. And you're right. It's a numbers thing. And to know that, a player of color could go into the National Hockey League and, dominate the way he did and do everything he did. It was so great and so emotional to see his number 22 hit the rafters in Boston. Now he wasn't in Boston that night, but overall to see his reaction and how thrilled he was, you saw the video, it's just a great thing for the game of hockey. And the big question came up after the fact, and that was a lot of people were asking, do you think his number should be retired around the league, or should it just stay in Boston? And I know a lot of people have their own debates and their own thoughts on that. I won't get into that conversation. I think at the end of the day, his number is just as recognizable as, a Wayne Gretzky for different reasons. I do vote that they should retire his number. But overall, just absolutely ecstatic. It's unfortunately the Bruins couldn't get a win for him that night on the banner night. But overall, great accomplishment by the Boston Bruins. Great career. I think his career ended in 1979. I think a year before I was born is when his career came to an end. And he's 86 years old now. And to see these news, and you're right, in the last 2 years, you're starting to see more stories about Willie O'Ree coming out, and I absolutely love it. I love it.
Yeah, the guys at the Gleaner in Fredericton cover him very well and have talked about him very much here in the last year, and maybe even in the last 2 years. But of course, there's a rink in Fredericton with his name on it. And today, Congressional Gold Medal was discussed in Congress or in wherever they talk about it in Washington to be honoring Willie O'Ree. And so that's a major accomplishment from the government of the United States.
We've got about a minute and a half, and we got to talk about the new face at the helm of the Montreal Canadiens. I know you kept this to the very end so that I couldn't go off on a huge tangent on it.
I want you to.
I know. And look, at the end of the day, I'm extremely, extremely pleased. Montreal has themselves a new man in charge. Kent Hughes is the new GM in Montreal. And, I saw the press conference this week in regards to him, Jeff Gorton, Jeff Molson. They sat in front. They took the questions. One, kudos to Kent Hughes and his ability to speak French. We'll start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fantastic. Love that. But he seems so cut and dry. So he was an agent. That's what he was. He was a player's agent. You go back, he's had some big clients. You look Patrice Bergeron, which is where that relationship developed between him and Jeff Gorton, how that whole thing came to be. I think one of the questions came through was, Jeff Gorton, did you hire this guy because he was your best friend? And he nipped that in the bud right away. And he laughed and he said, this guy is not my best friend. He's like, we've been, respected hockey people for 20 plus years. We talk multiple times a week, but it sounds like nobody's safe in Montreal, but they made it very clear that as of right now, nobody has asked for a trade out of Montreal. So the evaluation starts tomorrow. We'll say, Montreal coming off its first win. I think now it's win number 8 out of 38 games now. Good to see, the likelihood of like Tyler Toffoli. He was back in the lineup. So there's going to be a lot of tough decisions to be made. The biggest one that was going to be questioning was Carey Price. What was going to happen? Well, the Canadians got bad news this week, and that was Carey Price's rehab is starting all over again. So there will not be any action. I can't see any team making a push unless they're going to take a gamble on him and see if he's ready for the postseason. But again, if you're Montreal right now, Jeff Molson wouldn't confirm nor deny whether or not that was going to happen, whether it was an option or not. So overall, Kent Hughes has got his hands tied. I know they're flying together in a plane tomorrow. They're going to start that conversation. Who's on the move come trade period time? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But overall, I know that I'm pleased. He seems very calm, very patient, not as passionate as Marc Bergevin was, but overall, we'll see exactly how it goes. Well, Gerry, it is time for everyone's favorite part of the show. It's time for the wrap. Everybody loves it. Let's get right into it. Big news out of the Australian Open. I shouldn't say big news, but news out of the Australian Open.
Well, Novak got kicked out of the country. Novak didn't want to get a vaccination. No vaccination for him. So Djokovic is out of Australia. Unfortunately, also out is Leylah Fernandez, who is a Canadian sweetheart from the U.S. Open in her first major since, and she got bounced in the first round. It broke my heart. Novak might not even get to play in the French Open because France is saying you can't come in unless you're vaccinated. Let's take a look at what's going on in Canadian soccer news. Chris, what do you have for an update?
Big news, 21-year-old Canadian striker Jonathan David. There's a list of top teams in Europe looking to have his signature on paper. Clubs coming in like England, Spain, they're lining up. But all reported interest comes from, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea, Tottenham. They've all made inquiries as well. Exciting times for Canadian soccer. The sport is growing great. Absolutely love to see it. Jerry, there was history made in San Jose with the Sharks this week.
Yeah, former Halifax Moosehead Timo Meier. He's 25 years old now, Chris. He was a first-round pick in 2015 by the Sharks. He's the first Shark to score 5 goals in a game. He does so this week in a 6-2 victory over their rivals from LA. There's only 5 other players in NHL history that have done it since 2000. And did you know he's the 8th leading scorer in the NHL? We salute Timo Meier this week. How about Leon Draisaitl? He likes to score goals, but that's not what we're going to talk about, right?
You're absolutely right. He's not in the news this week for scoring goals. It goes back between the bantering between him and Jim Matthews, a reporter at a press conference. There's some professionalism. I'm not going to sit on which side of the coin I'm sitting on right now, because everybody has their own opinion. But as far as I'm concerned, professionals need to be professional. On both accounts, Jerry, you're not wrong. But when a reporter's coming at a player, but the Edmonton Oilers have to stop sending Draisaitl and McDavid out to defend this team. It's absolutely a disaster. Hope everything works out for them there. Big news coming out of the NBA and the Brooklyn Nets, Jerry.
Yeah, Durant is down for 4 to 6 weeks with a sprained MCL. I'm really starting to worry about the durability of the superstars in the NBA. And when one of them goes down, it's a big blow to any team. Think of our guy, Kawhi Leonard. He hasn't played since June of last year, Chris. He's expected to come back this season, but still, I have real problems with some of these stars and their durability throughout a regular season. How about Mike Tyson? Is he going to get back in the ring, Chris, and with who?
2 days ago, yes, but as of last night, no. There was a $61.5 million rumored fight happening. As of last night, that fight was cut down. Mike Tyson shut it down. Not going to happen. So unfortunately, hey, things could change maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Well, Jerry, that's going to wrap it up for us here tonight. We hope you had a great week as much as, we love doing it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday.